Welcome to the first ever episode of the OSM podcast. My name is Chanda Lynn. You might walk away from this thinking a whole lot differently about me than even what you're picking up on now. All the preconceived notions you might have about things might become a whole lot different. You know, from the time I was very little, I felt like I was too far gone to be saved, that I was dirtier than other people. And even now, I still struggle with those thoughts, even though I know they're lies from the enemy. But looking at other people and just realizing, like, they don't struggle the way that I do. They have not done the things that I've done. And I can tell you that nobody is too far gone to be redeemed, and I think it's only appropriate to begin this channel with you really understanding my story and where I come from and the depths of hell that I was taken into, just to be here now. So I grew up, and my father was a very violent man for the time that he was around. And I remember always wanting to be able to protect my brother from him. And I felt extremely weak and powerless. I had no control. I was too small to keep my brother from being abused. And I also had this deep seated fear of being rejected, being not loved enough, not good enough. And when I was 5, my father actually ended up leaving. He came to my school, or maybe I was 6, 5 or 6. He came to my school in, I think it was first grade, and he was wearing this yellow rain jacket, and he said, "Shanda, I've got to go to Colorado for a couple weeks. Your grandfather, my father, his father is sick with cancer. I've got to go take care of him. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I love you so much." And I remember hugging him and crying because it felt like it's like my spirit knew something I didn't. It felt like it wasn't just going to be 2 weeks. And it's totally contrary to the way I should have logically felt. I should have been relieved because this man was abusive. This man was just so malicious towards my brother. This man had all of this evil within him that I should have been like, good riddance, go. But instead, there was like this duality. I loved my father very, very much. I identified with him more than my mother. Him and my mother were both addicted. My father, a severe alcoholic. But I gravitated towards my dad and felt most loved and seen by him, yet most abused and forsaken. But so it came down to it, and he left, and he said he was going to call me every day, and I'm sure you could guess that didn't happen. I talked to him, I think, 3 times within a period of 13, 14 years after that. So when my dad left, my mom ended up getting remarried, and my stepdad had a specific hatred for me. And I don't know why that was. I have a younger brother and an older brother. I would have thought, if anything, he would hate the boys because my stepdad had his own sons who he couldn't see very often because he left his marriage. So it just didn't make sense, like, why he reserved this special hatred for me. But nevertheless, he did. And there's one more thing I have to add in before I go into my stepdad. I drowned when I was 4. Before my dad left, I drowned in Lake Erie. And I had a near death experience where I experienced the love of God, all encompassing. And when I was saved out of the water, back to life, I was never the same since then. I thought about life and death constantly as a little 4-year old. My whole perspective on everything completely changed. I saw everything as spiritual. I was kind of detached from reality. I couldn't relate to other people. So that's a preface to what goes into me being more weird. Anyways, my stepdad, yeah, had that special hate. And I began developing this ungodly rage. Not only, did my dad leave, but just being hated for existing began like I don't know how to describe the rage, the malice I had towards everything. I had murderous thoughts, and we're talking as a 5, 6 year old. Just the violence. There was so much violence in me, and all I wanted, like, I did and did not want to hurt people. But I don't know how to explain it. Just this hatred, this violence. And that began to brew. And when I'd be around my stepdad, he would criticize the way that I walked, like if I walked too heavy, if I walked too light, and he would criticize if I breathed a certain way. So I have a habit, I developed a habit that I still have to this day, where when I breathe in, I hold my breath for long periods of time and I don't consciously realize that I'm doing it. But all of that at that time, it began to, in order that I would not be criticized for the way that I breathed. And I mean, any way that I talked, if I gave certain looks, it wouldn't matter. Just this constant criticism. And I began realizing that I am despised just for existing, and if I'm despised just for existing, then I'm not worthy of being loved or cared for, and I'm certainly not worthy of being loved or cared for because my father, who said he loved me, left me and didn't want to stick around. I had this identity crisis. I felt like half of me was missing, like I'd never really be able to know who I was, and then also this other half of just left with this rage and hatred. And around the time, within this period of time, all of this is shifting. I end up having this dream, and like I said, I'm 5 or 6. I'm pretty sure I was 5. I don't know. The years get pretty blurry. I had this dream that I walk out on my front porch steps, and everything in the world is in total chaos. And there are like these demons of all different shapes and sizes, some like this tall, some far bigger. And I look over to the right and I see that these like tiny imp demons are like pulling at my neighbor. I don't know. They were like trying to pull off her skin. And then I could see the whole earth at the same time. I could see my porch, my neighbor, my neighborhood, and also like all over the face of the earth. And all of these demons are everywhere, tormenting and attacking people. And then all of a sudden, the Spirit of God enters me. I know that's what it was now. Enters me. I reach my hands up towards the heavens. I began speaking in tongues, and then this lightning all across the sky, almost like there was a dome over the earth in every direction, everywhere you could see, just went poof, like, and then total and complete peace, and the colors were so vibrant, everything. And I woke up. Well, I woke up with this awareness, and this is a 5 year old, 5, 6 year old, woke up with this awareness that, oh, like God has something real different, real impactful for my life spiritually. And kind of once I just gained just a hair of that awareness is when I began seeing shadow figures every single night for the next, well, let's see, if I was 5 and then it ended at 21. So for the next 15, 16 years. So then I didn't have to be in sleep paralysis, but if you don't know what sleep paralysis is, it's when you're laying in bed, then your body from neck down, or well, even your head, you can't move your head either, becomes completely paralyzed, like held in place, and you can only move your eyes. And typically, what accompanies that experience is seeing these tall, cloaked, or shadowy entities. The ones that I saw were around 6 to 7 feet tall, and seeing these entities was a nightly occurrence. It was almost like after that dream had happened and the Holy Spirit imparted that purpose into me, it was the moment that I swear hell itself knew to begin attacking my life and trying to take that calling from it. And the fear, the paralyzing fear, even if I wasn't in sleep paralysis, when these entities would be in my room at the foot of my bed, over to the left, standing in the doorway. Just the fear alone, even if my body hadn't been paralyzed, it would seize me up. And I'm looking at them in pure terror, and the hatred that they emanated, and the evil, like the pure, the disgust, the disdain for me, for human beings, was like palpable. I don't, it's very difficult unless you've had these experiences to explain like what they emanate. And every single night I'd be petrified to go in my room, petrified to go to bed, because this is a nightly occurrence. It wasn't like once a week. This is every night. And I'm only 5, and the only person I have to discuss any of this kind of stuff with was my older brother, because he also spiritually understood things. But we're like 5 or 6, he's like 7 or 8, and we're having these conversations that children don't have. I have kids of my own now, and I realize how unusual it was to I guess be the way that me and my older brother were when we were young. So, but even in talking about it with my older brother, it didn't make it go away. I had no defense. I didn't know what to do to make these attacks stop happening. And I remember being in school, and I would look around at the other kids, and I would think to myself, like, I don't know. I felt like an alien. I felt like an alien in the world, because none of them seemed to be experiencing what I was. And at the same time, I was also thinking of life and death constantly. I was thinking about how long I have on this earth, what I'm meant to do on this earth. These are all the thoughts I'm having as a 5 or 6 year old. So I'm looking at them feeling like a total foreigner, because they don't seem like they're aware of any of this kind of stuff at all. Like, they care about their coloring books, they care about Johnny Appleseed Day, and I'm sitting there like, man, it's so hard to kind of describe where I was at, just in total existential thought, and also this tormented demonic crisis. Well, as the years go on, the hatred and the rage only continued to just encompass all that I was. I remember I had this little black book, and I only had, like, I think 3 to 5 pictures of my dad, and I would cry over that little flip booklet of his pictures every single night. I would wait by the phone, because I just knew, oh, it was an accident. That's why he hadn't called me. But then also I knew that he wanted to leave me. I had very convoluted thoughts. So I would wait for him to call, and of course he never would. And I can see now where, like, my identity became extremely fractured through all of this. Not only did I have this hyper awareness that I was a spiritual being inside of a human body, but then I'm also being attacked by forces that I'm completely defenseless over. I try to tell my mom, she doesn't listen to me. She won't even let me sleep in the room with my brothers. I'm terrified nightly. My dad's not coming home. He hasn't called. What's wrong with me? Why doesn't he love me enough? I also have this murderous rage inside of me. I want to kill things all the time. My stepdad hates everything about me. I don't even understand if I can't breathe right. Am I even worthy of love? And then my mom was bringing us to to church. And this is also where another huge part of my identity became extremely fractured. I was taught that Jesus died for my sins, and that Jesus loves me. And then the sermon the very next week was, if I don't clean my act up and stop sinning, I am going to go to hell. I'm no longer saved. I'm saved, but I'm not saved. One weekend I'm saved. Next weekend I'm not saved. I'm saved, not saved, not saved. And I begin thinking to myself, like, well, I'm seeing all these entities and these shadow figures, and maybe, like, I'm destined, like, for hell. Like, I truly can't be saved, because look at what I'm doing. And this is where a pretty vulnerable part of this comes in, and I don't think I've ever shared it publicly, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube. But from the time I was 5, and I only have like hazy memories of certain things, so I can never say with certainty what did and did not happen as far as abuse. But I became extremely hyper focused and over sexualized at 5. That also began at 5 years old. The the what comes along with that and doing things to yourself, I couldn't stop from the moment that I learned about that, and I don't know where I learned about that. See, that's the thing. I have no memory. How did I know this as such a little kid? How did I even begin thinking about this? Because again, I have little kids. They are not like this. I check on them all throughout the night. Like I am a helicopter mom, as they say. But I couldn't. Like, as soon as it began, I couldn't get rid of this obsession. It was an obsession. And I'd be in my room for hours. And then also, after all that, I'd be like, I'm certainly going to hell. Why can't I stop this? And I remember, I mean, I've prayed, had prayed thousands upon thousands of prayers to Jesus Christ himself from the time I was 5 until I was older. Please take this from me. Please, I don't want to do this. I feel dirty. I feel ashamed. I don't know why I can't stop. That was my first addiction. Out of all the things I'll end up telling you about, all the drugs, all the alcohol, that was my first addiction. So, as you can see, this is kind of like a perfect recipe for somebody to become a self-harming drug addict. But I digress. So, few years went on. I think I was about 8 when I began playing football. I was the only girl on my football team, and that became a release for me for all of the rage that I felt inside. They ended up making me into a running back. That was incredible. And I would take all of that pent up anger and all that violence, and I would play as hard as I could on the football team. And I got MVP a few years in a row. And that was incredible until football ended. And then somewhere around, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. God, bring to memory anything else that you want me to say right now through those years, anything that you know to be important. And so I was also going to youth group during this time, like throughout my childhood. And I really liked my youth pastor. He was dope. He did a whole bunch of fun stuff. And, you listen to Skillet and Cutlass and all the Christian music back in the day. That was a break away from me, or a break away for me, a reprieve, getting out of the house, being away from my stepdad, and that was amazing up until we couldn't go anymore. And I think that's where a lot changed. I also just kind of want to I explain this, that for some reason, I think I know why it is now. My mother was extremely demonically oppressed and addicted to painkillers and certain things throughout my childhood. And my mother was just not capable of showing me love, expressing affection towards me. I had a deep wound most of my life over that. We're really close now, and I'll tell you how that happened. But I knew, like, I didn't have anyone to look to, and all I had was my older brother, and until I didn't anymore, until drugs got us both. But I wanted that affection from my mom, and that just furthered into this fractured identity that even my own mother can't love me. Even my own mother doesn't hug me. Even the only time my mom loves me is if I get really sick and she has to take me to the hospital, then she's there. And I think that also kind of forged into stuff later on, like going to the hospital and doing the things I did to get that kind of love. But yeah, so I think I was 13, 12 or 13, and this is when my stepdad had this incredible idea to move us out of Jamestown, New York, and build this house in Gary, New York. If you know Jamestown, then what's up? And so they got this modular home and the blueprint for how to build it or whatever, have people build it, and they wanted us to move out of Jamestown so that us kids wouldn't get influenced by all the gangbang and stuff that was going on. So they build the house, move us out to Gary, but now my sports have gone away and youth group has gone away, because then my stepdad would say, I don't have enough gas money to bring you to youth group, and unless you make enough gas money, you're not going. So like just literally actually the only two outlets I had in life were just poof, gone. And this is where the self-harming came in. I began to, I think I was like, 13 or 14, began to hear these voices telling me that I needed to do this and do that. I would only ever do it on my legs. I need to do that and release the blood, because if I don't, and I don't know where I got this concept. This is how I know it was demons talking to me, because I had never heard of anybody doing that before. I had never seen anything about it on TV, nothing like that. It's just one day these voices were telling me, you have to do this. And it's not until you release the blood that you will be relieved of this pain and suffering. So I would close myself in my closet in total darkness too. And this is how crazy evil this was. I didn't even have a light on, like no light, in pitch blackness, doing this. And then I'd open up the closet, just a crack to let a little light in to make sure I saw the blood. And then it was like, you're relieved. And this rush would come over me, and like a euphoric high, but also the torment was released out of me. And I'm not sure what door got opened up to even have this had that start happening to me. I don't know what it was, but all day, every day, my thoughts were so condemning. I constantly, like, all of my thoughts were, you're not worthy to be alive. There's nothing good about you. Nobody truly loves you. Everybody's going to leave you. I had not one good thought about myself up until I think I was 26. Just constant. So it felt like the only naturally logical thing to do was to make sure that hatred and that self-condemnation manifested also on the outside of me, just to really seal the deal that I am less than nothing, not worth anything, like deserve to be hurt in this way. And also, what was kind of in tandem with that was all of the rage and hatred and violence I had inside. I would take that out on myself. Again, only my legs, because I didn't want people to see this. It wasn't like a cry for help. It was, I'm hearing voices, and I've got to do this, but I don't want no one knowing about it. So, excuse me, I would do that, and it was like I could channel all the hatred and all the rage, and I finally have an answer. So little time went on, and then I was still, what a duality, what a dichotomy, if that's the word. I was extremely dark, extremely over sexualized, extremely violent towards myself. But then on this other hand, I was a perfect A student, extremely moral, and was very, very, very uncomfortable with anybody doing anything bad around me. Like if I saw like people smoking or something, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. Like almost like this self-righteousness, but really it was like this purity and this innocence that I had. I was very uncomfortable with like other girls talking about sexual experiences that they had. Like it was so mind-blowing, because I was going to wait till marriage, like just to see anybody partake in any kind of sin, even though I gave you a preface here. Even though that, I was just like so separate from all of that and so uncomfortable around it. up until, and this is where another door got opened. Somebody came up to me that I really loved and respected, and he had begun smoking marijuana, and so did his girlfriend. And he's like, "Here, you need to take a hit of this. You need to stop being such a B word." Which, by the way, side note, I used to swear even up until like a month and a half ago, swear so much, curse, like cuss, right? Now, the Holy Spirit has literally taken that away from me where I can't, even if I want to. I feel like, I don't know, like a sharp feeling when I hear people swear, or God forbid if I were to. So I would have said that word. And don't think I'm like too goody two shoes. It's just God's done a work in me, I'm not recognizing myself much anymore. But anyways, so he's like, "Stop being such a B word." Look at that. Look at that. I'm changing. Who knew I could be cleaned up? I didn't know. I didn't know, but it's happening. Okay. So I hit it, and complete. I'm at home for the first time ever. I'm entirely relieved. I rolled around this field, like literally like a hayfield, and I was laughing and being just absolutely ridiculous, like embarrassing the people I was with. It didn't matter. I was free that I was free that I was free. I had never had that much joy and peace and clarity in my whole life. Like, never did. And now this is something real peculiar about me. I have met thousands of people who have been addicted, like so many. And about maybe I've only met a few that get the way that I do with literally anything. I can take anything and I can't, like, I have to do it. I create a schedule and a ritual around it, and it has to be done, and I can't not do it even for one day. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you're talking about the hypersexualized, like, just all, like, it has to be done. I can't not do it. If it's cigarettes, I'm, 40, like, it just, not one break. Not, so that's the way it became with marijuana. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube. I pray that I'm allowed to say these things. And I started smoking a quarter ounce a day. I had to be high every day, all day before I went to school, after I got off the bus. Just everything I did revolved around this. I got a job at a nursing home just to be able to pay every week for the habit I developed. But in that, I had found the answer. Like, this was everything. It became my God. So I'm doing all the other stuff too that this was prefaced by. All of that's happening. So just so many demonic doors are open. I'm hearing voices. All of my thoughts are self-condemning. I'm unworthy. But when I was smoking, it was like the voices became quieted. I was just able to be. Just for a little while, just able to be. And that was incredible until I ended up going into psychosis a few years later and couldn't smoke marijuana anymore, but that's coming up. So all that's going on. Then I'm 16. I should probably try to hurry this up, but at the same time, it's kind of the point, 16, and I was still a virgin. And but again, all the other stuff. And I met this guy, and he was 21. Now I know, like, now that I have kids and I'm older, I'm just thinking, like, how did anyone allow this? Like, with my daughter, with my sons, like, it's inconceivable. Like, that's not gonna happen. But I meet him, and he became my first, right? And when I got in and by the way, I valued my virginity so, so, so much. Like, it was the thing. I was going to wait till marriage. I knew that's what God wanted. So it's crazy. You get yourself into situations where you really don't want, and then you just, whatever. But during this relationship, it was my first love, and I completely trusted him. Actually, the thought never occurred to me, not once or ever, that it was even a possibility. There was a possibility for anything to happen that would ever cause me not to trust him. Like, trust wasn't even something I thought about in any way, shape, or form, because it was such a given. Isn't that what people do when they love each other? He would never harm me. They're like, just this is the naivety of these things. And so I completely gave all of myself to him, my whole heart, just everything. And I think we were together. I can't remember how long we were together. We're smoking all the time. He's driving me around in his car. Had a lot of crazy parties. I had started drinking by this time and doing a few other things too. A lot of cool parties. He liked drawing really weird aliens, and he was kind of outlandish. And I was always thinking about life and death, and I was extremely existential. I mean, he was weird. He was a different level of like, you know, those people that like, they talk about stuff at parties that they really think like they have some knowledge about the universe, but they really don't, like that. But it was still kind of cool because I'm 16 and I'm naive, so I think he's smarter than he is. So it was kind of, I don't know. And for months we're partying and we're together and all of this and that. And how did the Bible come into this? It was like around Christmas. The Bible came in somehow. I think my little brother was there. My older brother was there. I think we just had like, I don't know if it was like Christmas dinner or it was around that time. And somebody begins a spiritual conversation about God's forgiveness and all of this and that. And this is like totally contrary to what normally was going on, you know, with me and my life or with my brothers or anything. We didn't go to youth group anymore, nothing like that. But the conversation just came up. And all of a sudden they're talking about God's forgiveness. And my boyfriend looks at me and he's like, I really feel right now that God's forgiven me, and I just need to tell you that I cheated on you. I had sex with my ex-girlfriend, but it was only twice. And I know God's forgiven me, and I know if I tell the truth that you're going to forgive me. Okay, remember when I told you that trust wasn't even like it wasn't even a thought. It's just I'd never been in a relationship. This is what people do. If you want to talk about a legion of demons that entered into me, probably did before that, just were waiting to be activated because I was having sex outside of marriage and doing all this other crazy stuff, entered me in that moment. And this is the first time, like, now they say it's like the spirit of Jezebel, where there's the control, and I became abusive. That's all coming up, like physically abusive towards my partners, all of that. But it's like all the legion entered into me in that moment. And I remember, like, I could feel this darkness take over my eyes, and I looked at him, and I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel sad. I felt nothing but murderous rage. I wanted nothing more than to, and he he begins repeating himself. Well, I told you, I didn't hide it from you. I didn't lie to you. You should forgive me, because didn't the Bible just say that God forgives? And I told him, you need to leave. And then he starts crying, and then he starts begging. And I'm like you don't understand, you know. But it's like a whole personality changed. Like more of me got fractured, and this part was born. And then he tries taking a belt around his neck, trying to, you know. And it was like, I was just thinking, do it. Like, I don't know, just all of the hate. And he finally leaves. And then I was going to college while I was in high school during this period of time. Forgot to tell you that because I'm 16, so I'm going to Jamestown Community College and going to high school, and working at a nursing home to pay for my marijuana habit, and also going out and partying and doing all this stuff. Well, I had met a guy at the college a few weeks prior to all of this happening, and I remember being really conflicted because I was attracted to him and he was really nice, And then I was like, no, this isn't right. Like, because I'd never been in a relationship before, but I knew that wasn't right. I shouldn't be entertaining someone else. So I like backed away from that friendship completely. I went to my boyfriend and said, oh, I thought someone else was attractive. I'm so sorry. Like, I won't ever talk to him again. It was just, we only had a couple conversations. I know it was wrong. Meanwhile, the whole time he's cheating. It's like, but this is how innocent I was and naive I was. So, anyways, 3 days after I leave my boyfriend, I get a hold of this guy. I think it was on Messenger, or I don't know, the phone or whatever, and we immediately get together. Like, we're just bam in love. Like, this was more intense than the first love, and I don't know why. I think just more demons and more. I don't know. Like, I was possessed. I was completely possessed. But everything was great the first few weeks, and I'm just head over heels in love. He's all I can think about, like, just all of that. And then something begins to turn inside of me, something that I had never, ever, ever experienced before. I begin or like, I don't know, it was like a force was coming over me. Like, he had to be controlled. And in order for me to love him or to even be with him, I needed to make sure that he was exactly the way that I thought he needed to be. And everything he did and was became a direct threat to me. Like, everything about him was extremely threatening because I was very, very much in love with him. But all of a sudden, I became obsessed with the people he had been with before. I needed him to explain every circumstance before me, and I just couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. And I developed this hatred for all of those people, and I also hated him that he had ever been with anybody before me. And I just had these violent thoughts towards him, but I also loved him a whole lot. Now I know this is all just, that's not love, but sure felt that way. And around this time, my mom decides to divorce my stepdad. But at that time, I was like, the damage is already done. Like, why didn't you do this, 5, 8 years ago when you saw how much he was hurting me? But nevertheless, she decides to. And so she moves us back to Jamestown after being out in Gary. And it's like, I don't know, maybe 25 minutes away from Jamestown or whatever. She gets this apartment, but then she gets this boyfriend, and she's just gone all the time. So now it's just me. My boyfriend has his own apartment, but he's at my mom's apartment, I guess my house, all the time, and my little brother. And my older brother was there sometimes, but then he started getting really heavily involved in drugs, and there was that whole thing. And I'm skimming over a lot of this because there was a whole lot more that happened out in Gary, and there was a lot. But anyways, so move to Jamestown, and boyfriend has his apartment, but he's with me all the time, and I become threatened that he has his own apartment, and I need him with me every moment of every day that I'm not in school. Like, he needs to be. And what was it? Yeah, I think it was like 2 months into this relationship, or 3 or something. Oh yeah, no, sorry. So this was happening, but not to this extreme, because I forgot to tell you, in love really in the beginning for a few weeks, and then it was like 2 months in, I still wanted to start controlling everything, but not to the degree I'm talking about. Then I go through his phone, and I found out that he had been texting and trying to call his ex-girlfriend. That's when, like, that demon, those legions, whatever, the control, the violence, like, I broke his phone in half. I think that was the first time I started hitting him. And it kind of like, I adopted this worldview that every single person is this way. Because if it happened with the first one, like, oh, this is a thing that happens in relationships. People are deceitful. They're manipulative. They hide things from you. And I'd never hidden anything from anyone up till this point. But I remember a distinct shift happened when I found out he did that. Then it made me feel like, well, then why am I not? why am I being so faithful? Because I had never even occurred to me to talk to anyone else or do anything like that at all. I just never, because I thought this guy would be different. Where was I? Oh yeah, him talking to his ex-girlfriend. This is where around this time I began well, the self-harming got a lot worse, but I began like punching holes in walls, and I became very violent towards him. I would hit him a lot, and I'm I can't believe that I was like this. Like, I can recognize those old parts, but man, and what's interesting is I've met so many teen girls who have gone through similar things. Like, they're in it right now and they don't realize that they're being demonically controlled, or even adult women who are still abusive and controlling towards their partners. It's a real thing, and it's a demonic influence. Like, those are demons acting through you. I just didn't know that at the time, because everything that I did, I so justified. It was completely justified to be doing these things because he did this to me. And yeah, so that was going on. And within that period of time, I was introduced to opiates. And I began taking, what was it? I think Vicodin or Percocet. And in the beginning, my nose would itch really bad, and I'd get really irritable, and I would tell myself, like, I don't even like this. Like, I don't like this feeling. I don't understand why people are doing this. And so I would do it on and off. But around that time, my boyfriend had ended up getting into it really heavily. And I should mention that also my mom had a boyfriend. I didn't like him at all. And she ended up breaking it off with him, that ended up getting with her childhood boyfriend just a few weeks later or something. And she came to me and she said, Shanda, I'm going to be moving like 3.5 hours away to be with this guy. I'm taking your little brother. You can come with me if you want to, or not. And at this time, I was set to graduate a half a year early from high school with an advanced diploma. I can't remember. Was I still going to college too? I don't remember. This is all hazy. I've done a whole lot of things. But so I remember thinking, well, I can't leave my boyfriend. I was entirely codependent. Could not be without him. Not one moment if I wasn't in school. So she ends up leaving. But right before this period of time, I guess that's important to state, she saw all my violence. She ended up getting me arrested, actually, because the one night I punched so many holes in the wall, and it was a few hours after oh yeah, and I think I hit him too. A few hours after I'd calmed down, then she calls the police. I talk about it like she ought not to have, but I mean, it's crazy what I'm saying. So she calls the police, and they get there, and I'm just like a little baby deer in the headlights, like, but why have you done this to me? Because I was so righteously enraged, because I was like, that's 3 hours ago. Look at me now. I'm completely fine. I was covered in cuts because I was self-harming. Just like bleeding, the holes in the walls. I had hit the boyfriend, like, but I thought, because I've calmed down, that this what an injustice that she gets me arrested. And so I'm telling the police officers, I'm like, they're all lying. I'm totally fine. Yeah, I mean, I got mad and I just kind of hit a wall. I didn't tell them about everything else I did. And they ended up feeling bad for me. They still had to arrest me, so they put my handcuffs in the front instead of behind my back. I was 16, and they took me to the psych ward, and they put me in the padded room, and there are like stab marks all on the door. And I'm thinking, how am I going to worm my way out of this? All I could think was, all right, so you got to get a story, Shannon, and they're going to see your legs. They're going to see all the cuts, so you better oughta. And this psychologist comes in like hours later, and he starts asking me about the cuts on my legs and punch and stuff. And I said, sir, my mom's had me in counseling because she did it, and my counselor would tell me to snap rubber bands on my wrist if I was really angry. So I'd be like, I said, he's given me so many tools, and these cuts are from a few days ago, but I've really changed my mind about what I'm doing to myself. And I know that I had this fit of rage, and I understand that's not the way I should handle things. Like, dude, I don't know. I think a snake was talking through me because the words I had at 16 were like above measure. And he's like, you're the only one I've ever done this for. I'm going to let you out and not hold you on a 3-day, a 3-day, whatever they call it. He said, but I want you to know that I was the one that did this for you. And when he said it, I just inside, I didn't want to let out too much joy in front of him. I was like, oh, dude, I'm the woman. I am so good at stuff. I was real good at stuff, real good at talking. So he lets me out. I go back home. My mom's apologizing to me. I should have been apologizing to her. She apologizes to me, and I'm like, yeah, and you knew I was calmed down and just feeling all self-righteous. But throughout this whole period, she had put me, she took me to a psychiatrist. Not the counselor. I had a counselor and a psychiatrist. The counselor is telling me to snap rubber bands on my wrist. He also likened my life to the animal kingdom, trying to make it make sense to why I was so violent and hateful. And I can't remember what he said about the animal kingdom, like trying to correlate it. And I'm thinking, this dude's like correlating, I don't know, my deepest despair to being like a monkey or a lion. It was really funny. Cut two. The spiritual warfare with this podcast has been unreal. We've recorded this I don't know how many times, and nothing's worked, but that'll be a separate issue for a separate day to explain. But where was I? Oh yeah, my life like a monkey, animal kingdom. Mom sends me to a psychiatrist. He puts me on Seroquel, Xanax, Prozac, and Valium. Four things. But there's a story in here that's really important. I think it's right around the time my mom left to be with this new boyfriend that she ended up marrying. I was up in the attic of the trap house with a few people, and we had this hallucinogen, which I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here, so I'm not finna say it. But I was the first to do the hallucinogen, and we had like a candle in the middle of us. We're all sitting in a circle. It seemed a lot like a seance now, but I hit it, I do it, and immediately they turn into like these humanoid figures. They looked like I don't know how to describe it, but specifically like their eyes, their hands, and their feet. Like it was like they were mimicking being human, or that I had not seen human beings for what they were my whole life. And they began to explain to me that my life had never been real, that everybody in my life, my family, my friends, even people walking down the streets, were all actors in a play, and that they were specifically sent there, never told me from where, sent there to deceive me, to make me believe that I was having a real life experience, and that these people had never truly loved me, that they never had any regard for me other than to complete this deception. Now, they never also said why this was, like what was the point in deceiving me. But as I'm hearing this and they're telling me all of this, it's like living your whole life and finding out you were adopted. But like times a million. How every single experience, down to every good moment, every conversation, every single thing with anyone else has been a lie, been a complete lie, and not just a lie, like that they had intentionally deceived me. They're telling me this, and I'm losing my mind. Just to recognize it's not just that one thing in your life is a lie. It's that your whole existence is. Your whole existence. I can't liken this to anything else. This is how, I don't even know. I don't have words. So then I come out of it, and they're like, Chanda, what is going on? Chill. And I start telling them, like, you just told me everything. I couldn't even get out full sentences. Like, you just told me you'd been deceiving me. And they said, Chanda, no, you hit it and you got up and you walked to the corner of the attic and you were talking to a shadow figure. And then you came back over and sat in front of us. Oh, no, I did not believe a word they were telling me. I'm like, you're just saying that because you're part and you're in on this whole deception. And like, don't even think that I don't know what you had told me. So I lost it after that. I was in psychosis for 2 years after this. Like, this was not it ended up fading after a few weeks. No, no, no. I couldn't recognize my human hands or my feet. I couldn't shower and look down at my body because it would send me like I'm I'm in a humanoid body just like them, and it'd remind me of this whole deception. And every conversation I would have with people after that experience, I would consciously know that they're only having these conversations with me in order to feed more into this deception to try to get me to believe that my life wasn't real. So I needed to be super hyper alert at all times, that like not to fall into the trap of the deception. And I had zero peace. There was no refuge. There was no nothing. Like, I just can't even explain it. And because there was a candle in the middle of us, it emitted this yellow lighting. So now, yellow lighting after this experience, I couldn't be in like sunlight. I couldn't be in a hue of yellow lighting like what you're seeing right now. This type of lighting would send me full space cadet, dude. Could not. So everything had to be dark in the house. Like, I had to have curtains up, or I could only go out at night because that hueish yellow lighting would send me into a complete panic attack. It was like the worst thing ever. That, and I was seeing the number 33 everywhere. Number 33. If I were anywhere at any point, license plates didn't matter. 33. This is sounding insane. Anyways, so going to the psychiatrist, all of that, mom gets me a psychiatrist, I'm on all these meds, then I concoct this plan that I'm going to go to the school counselor, and my mom's going to be there for like a mental wellness, whatever, because they noticed in school I was missing a lot of school at this point because I was losing my mind, and also I was depressed, I was self-harming. So I end up taking a bunch of my meds before I went to meet with the school counselor and my mom. And like in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to fall asleep because I can't stay awake on the Seroquel and they're going to feel really bad for me. And I did exactly that. Took a bunch of Seroquel. I'm nodding out during the whole meeting with my mom and the counselor. Then they said, this poor thing, she shouldn't have to be in school like on a normal schedule like the other kids. I mean, look at her. She can't even stay awake. So then they told me that I only had to go to school from 9 to noon, and it didn't matter how many days I missed so long as I tried to be there. Well, that was like a license to me to do whatever I wanted. And so that's exactly what I did. I skipped school all the time. And I was just smoking weed and doing my thing. Well, then within there, my boyfriend's getting heavier and heavier into stuff. And, then my mom moves with her boyfriend that will later become her husband, and now it's the summer, so I've completed the 11th grade, and I say that loosely because I missed countless days of the 11th grade, and I end up moving in with my aunt, who was my mom's sister, and unfortunately my aunt is no longer alive. She lost her battle to addiction when she was 38, and that is coming up later on. So I move in with my aunt, and I didn't know that she was addicted. I knew that she asked me a lot to get her Vicodin, but I didn't fully understand addiction at this point. Like, nobody had ever explained addiction is like this compulsion to use something when you don't logically want to. Like, never made sense to me. So I noticed my aunt is really, really, really happy when she has her pills and really, really sick and locking herself in her room when she's not. But I'm so consumed with my boyfriend, who ends up moving in with me and my aunt at this time, and just going through the motions. I'm drinking all the time. I'm fighting with him. Then I'm hanging out with my aunt, who is happy when she's high and then miserable when she's not. But it now the summer is ending, and I'm skipping through a lot of stuff because we don't have 17 hours. Summer is ending, and when my aunt is sick, she has all these pets, cats and dogs. They go to the bathroom in the house, and I couldn't keep up with it. I tried shampooing the carpets, everything, and the house would smell like, animal odors. And I realized that I'm going to end up smelling like this when I go to school, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want to be picked on. I don't want to be known as that kid who smells like that. So I end up telling my aunt I want to move. I want to move out, before I go to school. She felt really betrayed by that, and that's a separate story. And so I did. And guess who I move in with? I move in with my stepdad that my mom ended up leaving. But this time, he's not like mean to me all the time. He is so broken at this point. Like after my mom left him, just terribly broken. And I felt nothing but sympathy for him. And at this point, he was drinking heavily every day. While we were growing up, he didn't drink at all. He was an alcoholic previous to having met my mom, but he cleaned up his life for her. But now he's in the full deep end. So he's taking me to school to Jamestown in the morning because he lives out in Gary. So it's like a half hour away, but he works in Jamestown. So I'm still going to school in Jamestown. This is my senior year. He's taking me there. After I get out of school, he picks me up. We go to the bar. I do my homework there. I get food at the bar. And then we go back to his house at night to go to bed and do all the same cycle over and over again every day. But to me, I went from like having all these rules with my mom to, I don't know, complete freedom. Like it felt like this is so cool. I get to go to a bar every day after school. Like I'm mature, I'm an adult. And I remember one time this guy tried to fight my stepdad in the bar because I was 17 and he was trying to hit on me, this guy. And then I told him I'm only 17. And then he freaks out on my stepdad for ever having brought me into the bar. And then I'm trying to defend my stepdad. And it was a whole thing. Anyways, so a few months of this go on. I'm going to high school. I'm not missing school anymore because now I want to go to Jamestown. And I don't even know what changed from there of wanting to actually do my senior year versus my 11th grade year. I really don't know. I don't know why I started going, but I think it's also like he wouldn't have let me get away with that too. Like, I don't know. But so I'm going there, and one day my brother comes over and he opens up the fridge, and all there is a 30 pack of Busch Light and like ketchup or mustard or something. We had no food in the house. And my older brother begins freaking out, saying, how are you living without having any food? And then I explained to him, I'm getting bar food every night. It's okay. And then he freaks out even more. And I'm thinking, you're blowing up my spot. Like, I'm fed. I'm fine. We go to the bar. But it, like, in my mind, this was completely fine. Now, I realize how ridiculous that is. So my brother freaks out. He calls my mom, who my mom wasn't checking in, like, barely ever. So she didn't know what was going on. Calls my mom, and she's like, I'm gonna call your great-grandparents. And so calls my great-grandparents and makes me move in with them. They call and they're like, we're coming to get you, great-grandpa's coming to get you. And that morning that I left, this was the second time in my life I ever saw my stepdad cry. He cried only once when his dog died. No, and when his mom died. So I guess this third time. And he was sitting out by the campfire at like 6 o'clock in the morning with an open beer, drinking and just crying. And I told him, I'm really sorry. I don't have a choice to leave. I wouldn't leave if it were my choice. And that was the first time I realized like he actually cared about me. So I think that healed some of the hate that I had for him. And I no longer hate him at all. I have nothing but empathy for him, and I love him. But so I moved in with my great-grandparents, and I don't know if it was because they were in their 70s or 80s that they just weren't up to date with the times, or that I was a particularly deceptive child, that maybe I was just very influential and they believed what I would tell them. I don't know. Or maybe they knew the whole time, but they knew they wouldn't be able to control me. But I respected my grandparents, so if they did tell me to do something, I would do it. I love them very, very much. But so great grandpa is now driving me to school from Lakewood, which is like 20 minutes away from Jamestown. He's driving me to school every morning to go to school to Jamestown. He gives me $10 a day. $10 a day for school lunch. Now you know. I wasn't using that $10 for lunch at all. I was using it to buy packs of cigarettes or to buy marijuana. And then I would skip school every day during lunchtime with a friend that I had. We literally put the classic pen in the door and then go off. We'd go to McDonald's while we're floating, as they call it, smoking marijuana in the car, and then I'd come back, pull the pen out of the door, come back in school. And then after school, I would meet up with my boyfriend because I would tell my great grandparents, well, I'm going to hang out with him. You know, maybe grandpa can come and get me. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but the house that my mom rented when she left my stepdad and moved us to Jamestown is the very house that my boyfriend ended up moving into after I moved in with my stepdad. He moved into that apartment with a drug dealer, and it became a trap house where they're just drugs in and out, people in and out all the time. Like all the drugs you could think of, just total trap house, hip hop music, boom, 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 you know, like walls shaking kind of trap house. Well, I would leave school, go to his house, party, whatever. Grandpa would pick me up, and man, these were some crazy times. But there was a point I was going to make. Hopefully I can remember it. No, I suppose I can't. Well, then I end up graduating early, and yeah, I think I graduated in January of 2014. Yeah, I graduated in, no, 2011. I'm sorry, because 2014 was when I got clean the first time. So yeah, January 2011. Then I moved down to my mom's house, which is 3.5 hours away from New York. And my boyfriend goes down there. I begin drinking a whole bottle of liquor every day. Like every day. There wasn't one night that I didn't black out. I wasn't the type of drinker that I remembered the things I did the night before. I would wake up every morning just completely ashamed because I would have bits and pieces of how violent I was. I would attack my brother. I would beat up my boyfriend. I would fight anybody and everybody. And I ended up sleeping in like fields, just everywhere. And then I would end up moving back up to New York, up near Jamestown, because I wanted to have a change of scenery, because at this time I was so depressed. And I thought, well, if I move, like I constantly needed a change of environment because I had no peace. I had no stability. And moving to me was like always the solution. I just can't stay in one place for too long. So then I'd move up there, and I'd be using opiates too. This was a time where I'm really into opiates. I'm really into alcohol. Can't quit using opiates. I'm using my grandma, my grandpa. I've drug dealers on the streets. I'm drinking at the same time. Go back down to my mom's, get the pills there, do the stuff there. I would hop different hospitals, and I would fake injuries or actually give myself real injuries. So if it was in New York or if it was in PA, it didn't matter. I tried to paralyze myself, and that was really, really horrible. And my biggest dream for my life at that time, and this is not fabricated, this is not puffed up, this is not to make the story sound just way worse than it was. The biggest vision I had for my life, and I would visualize this, like fantasize it, going over and over and over again in my mind, is being in a wheelchair, and that a doctor would have to prescribe me opiates. Like there is no way he could say no, and I would have an endless lifetime supply of opiates, and I would fantasize about this, like mouth watering, like this is, and then I would think, well, if I became friends with like somebody from the pharmaceutical companies, like if I couldn't paralyze myself because I had tried to and it didn't work, like I just couldn't get myself injured enough, which all of this is insanity. Then I would think if I became friends with like the pharmaceutical producers, like their family members, then I could get on the in and have an access to like the factory supply of the opiates. And so long as I remained on the in with like the family or the friends, then I would have an endless lifetime supply of opiates. And I would like, I would fantasize. I can't even tell you how long I would fantasize about this becoming a reality and trying to figure out, like, well, then who do I search on Facebook? Like, who is the owner of this company or this company? And how do you, searching up, how do you effectively paralyze yourself? Like, because I don't want it to be from the neck down. I only want it to be from my legs down. I mean, you can't, this is just a reflection of the destitute state of my soul and how much addiction had its teeth and its claws in me. And so this went on for a while, and then I turned 19. And all the while during this too, I'm still in psychosis, like all the time. Can't go out in lighting. I'm thinking everybody's not real. But the only time I felt like any consolation, I suppose, that my life wasn't real is if I was high. Then it didn't matter if it wasn't real or not. It was to no effect, because being high took away the fear of knowing that none of this is real. It was my only reprieve. So then turned 19, and I work in this warehouse. My mom works there. It's Vogue Knitting, and our job is to put literally to finna put stickers on books, different color stickers for different books. That's what I did all day, every day for 8 hours a day. Put sticker. That's it. And I was telling my husband, I had a revelation, because 2 days ago we're given this box of Bibles, and I'm sitting there putting sticky notes on certain pages of the Bible. And it was like a revelation that even God used this stupid job putting stickers on books to prepare me to put sticky notes on multitudes of Bibles. Like, it's just weird how all this works. But I would get out of work, I think it was at 3:00, and I'm just smashing liquor. And then I go to bed at like 3:30 or 4:00, and I say go to bed because I'm blacking out. And then I wake up 2 hours later. I'm still, when you're like not completely trashed, but you're a million miles away from being sober, you're in like that haze state. Well, that's where I'd be every day riding to work with my mom. Just like in the twilight zone, and I do the same thing every day. And my boyfriend works with me as well. He picks up a job because anywhere I moved, he moved. So we're still in this toxic, actually it got a lot worse. We're fighting a lot more now. I threw a pool ball at his head like a week before what I'm about to tell you. Then he pushed me out of the window, but the fall was only like this far. So I tried to tell everybody, look, he did something to me, when really I'm like chucking pool balls at his head. Like, he should have tried to push me out. And again, the fall from the window to the ground was this much, but that's how volatile it was becoming. Then I meet this guy who is 30. I'm 19 at the time, and he's 6'4". He has long hair that he put back in a ponytail, had a bandana, always wearing a bandana, wearing these cargo pants and cut off tank tops or whatever. And I noticed that he's looking over at me a lot, and I'm looking at him, which I ought not to be. But at this point, I just have the moral character of a slug, of a freaking of a something bad. I have no fidelity. I have no character whatsoever. But I did to some degree too. Like, I knew morally that this was wrong, that I ought not to be entertaining it. But then I was thinking, well, my boyfriend's done this and that, so he doesn't, just whatever, you do bad things when you don't know God. So he starts writing me poetry, and he's like an incredible poet. So we begin exchanging back and forth poetry about existence, about nature, about God. He's super Christian. He's a conspiracy theorist. We're talking about fluoride in the water. We're talking about all sorts of stuff. And my boyfriend is getting really insecure about this, and I'm explaining that it's only poetry, that it's this and that. It's nothing like that. Like, dude, this is terrible. Like, this is not the way I think now. I'm very vigilant about guarding my marriage, for instance, like that you don't open doors. You don't have relationships like this. But then it came to this point. Well, I don't like talking about that. It's just terrible, terrible. I don't like remembering it. But it all came to a head where I ended up leaving my boyfriend one weekend and going with this guy, and I broke my boyfriend's heart in about the worst way you could possibly ever break someone's heart. I completely abandoned him. Just terrible. And yeah, that's still now hard to reconcile how I did that. But I get with this guy, and again, he's super Christian. He has kids, but now he's not seeing his kids because he's with me. He had also left a relationship, a marriage. At that time, he was telling me that his wife had been cheating on him, that she was going to leave him, that she's going out all the time. Now I know these things are lies, but you believe it at the time. I'm thinking, this poor guy, he's such a victim. Like, his wife is cheating and she's abusive and she's lying. And I believed every single word of what he told me, 100%. I'm like, gosh, he doesn't deserve all of this. He's such a good guy. He's working to support his family and blither blather. So stupid. So he leaves his marriage. I leave my boyfriend. He tells me they're already getting a divorce. So dumb. And when I get together with him, he's not drinking and doing all the stuff I'm doing. He was smoking cigarettes, but like, he wasn't really addicted to cigarettes. And I find this strange that the people I've been with, like, they don't seem to be addicted to things the way that I am. I can't stop chiefing cigarettes, and he just could take it or leave it. But I'm drinking heavily. I'm doing drugs still within the first couple weeks of being with him. And then I do something horrifically stupid the one night. May as well just tell it because it's entertaining to people, I suppose. He brings me to his friend's house. Like, he has a bunch of friends there that he's known all his life, and he's so proud to be with me. He would always say I was the most attractive woman he had ever been with, that he's like really proud to show me off, whatever. And he's like, I'm just so excited to introduce you to my friends. Well, I tell myself consciously, Shanda, you're not gonna drink when you go there. You're not going to do it, because I know I always black out. I can't not black out. And I'm not saying that like to be, to exaggerate. I couldn't not black out every time I drank because I drank liquor. So then I was thinking, okay, well, if you do drink, you can only have like 2 beers. Well, we get there, he's introducing me to his friends. The 2 guys that are his main friends are gay, and they're in a relationship together. And then there are some other friends, and I have a beer, and then they're like, well, do you want a mixed drink? And all I remember is they pour me a mixed drink. I'm in the kitchen as the new boyfriend's telling them about me, like how cool I am, this and that. And then cut to, I'm out on the front lawn. One of the gay guys is screaming at me to get the F out of his house. This is horrifying. He's like just freaking out. And I'm like, what did I do? And he's like, you made out with my boyfriend. And I didn't believe him. I'm like, there's no way. Like, it was cut to, I had a drink. Cut to, I'm out on the lawn. I couldn't have possibly done that. And so he's like viciously trying to get me to leave. Well, my boyfriend, the new boyfriend that I had already left. Like, and we had just moved into this new apartment in this new town I'd never lived in before. So I have no clue where I'm at, nor do I know how to get home. Like, not at all. So then I'm stumbling as I leave their front lawn. I'd like run away. I'm stumbling down the street, and I'm pulling like car door handles, trying to find one that's unlocked, because I'm like, I just need to sleep this off. So finally, hallelujah, I found a car that was unlocked. I open the driver's seat. I get in the chair. I like put it all the way back, and I fall asleep. Thank God. Like, nobody came out and was like, what are you doing in my car? Come to at like 6 a.m. The sun's just barely coming up. I have no clue where I am. I'm like countless blocks away from my house because my new apartment was like it was on a number street, and I'm like at street number 7, and it's like number 58th Street or 58th Street or something like that. So I'm just stumbling like down the road trying to find where I'm at. Like hours later, or a couple hours later, I finally get to my apartment. New boyfriend is in our bedroom sleeping. I'm trying to knock on the door. He's not waking up or whatever. Then I finally find a open window. I crawl through the window and I look in at him while he's sleeping, and all this guilt, the shame when you black out while drinking and you wake up and realize everything you had done. All of that's pouring in on me. I'm looking at him feeling so guilty for what I had done. So I go in my living room and I just collapse on my knees. And I said, God, I can't stop drinking. I need you to take this from me. This is the first time in my life ever that I had been delivered in a moment, like in a millisecond of a moment. And just like that, the desire to drink completely left me for that time being. And so it did, and I tried to make my amends with new boyfriend. We end up moving forward. We're together for months. I quit smoking cigarettes because he quit smoking cigarettes, and we get super involved in church and Bible meetings. I read the whole Bible, listen to the whole Bible on audio in like less than a month. I'm just downing the Bible, just becoming super religious. Not like a relationship with Christ, but I become like law and order Christian. You shouldn't listen to this. You shouldn't do that. You should do this. If you don't do this, you're going to hell. Talk about self-righteous. And I also never had the revelation that Jesus covered all my sins. So I was also petrified that I was still going to go to hell while I was telling other people they were going to go to hell. That's something. So this goes on, me and new boyfriend working together, living together, growing in faith, which really I was just growing in religion. Then this comes to one of the craziest stories you'll probably ever hear in your whole life. But to preface it, it's very important to understand that, remember I told you he had kids and that he wasn't able to see them as much. He began in the early parts of the relationship after I had quit alcohol, expressing how much he wanted to have another child because he's not seeing his kids so much. And so we started trying to have a baby. And I can't stress to you enough that I never wanted kids. Like all throughout my childhood and my teen years, I would tell people I'm going to be the one that never has kids. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I was one of those people. Sorry, I'm winded. I ran upstairs to the bathroom and my cardio just ain't that, boy. But yeah, so I'm so in love with him. I'd never loved anybody up to this point as much as I had loved him. So he became like my God, Even what he would say would trump the Bible, and that's saying a lot because I was super religious, and he would twist certain parts of the Bible, and I believed him. He was like my spiritual leader and teacher, and yeah, it was a whole convoluted thing, but he was talking about that we were going to get married. Now we're trying to have a baby. So fast forward several months, and I can't get pregnant, and I'm thinking I'm barren, and it was a whole big emotional issue for me that I couldn't seem to have kids. Cut to several months into our relationship, happy and in love, never fought, never nothing. We fight on this one peculiar Thursday. We have this fight, and I just found it so bizarre that we're fighting like this. I'm seeing parts of his personality I'd never seen before, and at the end of the argument, he said, "Fine, well, I'm going to have to find some whore to live with." And when he said that, it was like, poof, I'm sorry, what? It was so out of line for his character. I'm thinking he's in psychosis or something, he is not thinking right. This is a perfect Christian man. We're getting married. We're trying to have a baby. I'm barren, but hopefully we can one day. And so I end up disengaging and leaving to my mom's the next day to go out for the weekend to her house and cool down. And on that Saturday, He ends up texting me and telling me how much he loves me and that he's really sorry and we need to work this out and just come back home. He misses me. And I'm like, I've said it before, not in this podcast, but at that moment I was like, thank God, he's finally come to his senses. What was he thinking? Of course he had a lapse of character. That's not really him. That was Satan. Just the ways I thought at that time. So I drive back home Sunday morning, and I'm the one who bought the car. By the way, his ex ended up keeping their van during when they split. I pull up and I walk into our apartment, open the door, and there are just boxes everywhere. And he's packing. He's not only packing all his stuff, he's going through my stuff and packing stuff. There wasn't like a conversation that occurred. It was just, I like saying this, but cut to, I'm in the house, all the stuff is packed from the day before. I love you so much, let's work this out. And then he's, I can't remember if it was like, yeah, well, we're not going to be together anymore or something. And I'm like, what, the conversation yesterday. So then he says, Chanda, I need you to bring me to my new girlfriend's house. Without context, without, oh, yeah, I'd been building a relationship without nothing. Like, we're talking zero explanation as to how he has a new girlfriend. We've been working together and living together. So how could this have, like, and this can't be real. And if you want to talk about, like, the psychosis of thinking my life wasn't real already, it was just like, poof, anything I had left, any semblance of reality or thinking I knew what life was just gone in that minute. Now I know he had been on Facebook on his laptop. He had a laptop and I had a phone. I hadn't been checking his Facebook or checking his laptop. I completely trusted him. I thought he's this perfect Christian man. We're going to get married. We're going to have a baby. Like, all of this, just completely believed him. So yeah, he was building a relationship behind my back for God knows how long. So I lose my mind. Everything within my power not to physically attack him. I load up my dog, a couple of my things, get in the car, and drive to my mom's house after telling him I'll clean up my language. I'm not going to take you to your new girlfriend's house. I said it a whole lot different than that. Get in the car with my dog and a couple things and go to my mom's house. I immediately start smoking cigarettes and just downing liquor. And this is after months of I don't smoke cigarettes, I don't use, I don't drink. So yeah, the very next morning of all mornings, I wake up and I throw up. And at first I think, well, it's because I haven't drank in a long time and, I'm just throwing up because I drank. But also I knew that I'm not the type of person who throws up in the morning after I drink. I just never have been like that. So then something hits me, this awareness, and I'm like, oh no, please God, no. So I call down to the stairs, because I was upstairs in the bathroom, to my little brother and ask him to go get me a pregnancy test. And he does. And I'm looking at it, and 2 pink lines show up. Just, I can't describe what I was feeling at this time, but at first I thought this can't be real. So I have my little brother go 2 separate times to the dollar store after that to get me more pregnancy tests, and they all turn out positive. I'm trying to call this guy, and he's not answering, so I text him, I tell him I'm pregnant, and he replies to me, "You're not my own anymore, and that's not mine." And that was it. Well, I don't know how to explain that I couldn't accept reality for what it was. Like, I intellectually knew that I was pregnant, but my heart could not receive the reality of that information. And at this point, I was already so broken and so damaged that it was completely hopeless for me to be able to stop drinking or smoking or anything like that. And I ended up going back to work a week after that. And when I get there, his new girlfriend is bringing him to work and dropping him off. And this begins a couple month period where I'm still working at the same job he is. And he would come into work every day and look over like at my desk, and him and his friend would be laughing. And this hatred began to brew in me, like all the rage I ever felt when I was a little kid, except for times an infinite amount, began forming inside of me. I had already hated him, but just, I don't know. It was like, it was an entity in and of itself that was growing within me. And after a few months of working there, and I'm pregnant, but I just can't accept the reality that I am at the same time. And I'm trying to quit drinking, but I can't. And I'm very ashamed of all these things. But just the truth is, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't have any help or support. I didn't know how to make good decisions. I didn't know how to be a mother. I didn't know how to function as a person. I didn't know. So one day after a few months, I went into work, and this one morning was the same as every other morning. He walks by with his friend, he snickers, and just something snapped. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Something snapped inside of me. Something broke irreparably. I look over to my coworker and I tell him something's wrong, like something's really wrong. And he tells me something to pacify me. And I tell him, dude, like, no, you don't get it. Something's really wrong. And I ended up going into the bathroom, and I'm just bleeding everywhere. And trigger warning, as they say, about miscarriage, but I did not, in fact, ending up miscarrying, but that's coming. So I'm bleeding out at this point. My mom still works with me. I go tell her what's going on. She rushes me to the ER. As I'm there in the ER for hours, they had given me a sonogram. They told me I was going to have a boy. And I get a text message from one of my coworkers that said that the guy, the father of my child, said that he hopes the baby dies because it would be a weight off of his back. But also at the same time, he's denying that that's his child. It's all convoluted. I'm there in the hospital. I'm still bleeding heavily. They're giving me a bunch of painkillers. They write me a script for an inordinate amount of painkillers. They end up telling me that you're miscarrying, you're going to bleed for 3 days. We're so sorry, you were going to have a boy. Here's what to expect. Here are the painkillers. And they discharge me from the hospital. I end up taking the painkillers, getting high for the first time in like a long time. And it was just off to the races from there. And at that time, I believed I was having a miscarriage. So I'm just drinking. I'm taking the pills. And then I have like a follow-up appointment. I can't remember if it was like a week or two after that. And they do a sonogram, and they're like bewildered to come to find out that I didn't miscarry, that it was like some sort of, I don't know what it was. Something in my uterus had ruptured and caused like a whole bunch of blood, but it wasn't a miscarriage, but it just appeared as if it was one. But at this point, now I'm on the opiates again, and even more of the trauma of he hopes the baby dies. It's so much. I am so beyond broken. There are not words for certain things that you experience, and that's where I was. And so I realize I need to get away from this whole environment. Something else happened there. But I end up leaving the job, and I go to New York because I realize I'm not going to be able to quit drinking while I live down at my mom's house. But then when I go to New York, I move in with my grandma who's on opiates, and I'm off to the races there, and I'm getting pills from her and pills from my grandpa and pills from people on the streets. And what was bizarre about this pregnancy is I'm a very small person. I've had 3 kids now, and I've never really gotten too big except for my third son. where you could actually tell that, but I've stayed relatively small, but especially with my first pregnancy, you couldn't tell at all. I was in the 7th month and you couldn't tell. And so I was like disassociated from the reality that I was pregnant, but then my spirit knew that I was. So every night I would pray over my stomach and I would say this prayer, and it was this prayer alone. I would say, God, please protect my son. He doesn't deserve what I'm doing to him. I don't know how to stop, but you can do whatever you want to me. That was it. Now, I don't know why I added on the end part that you can do whatever you want to me, but I did. Just like treat us as if we're separate. Like don't hold my sins against my son. And by the grace of God, when my son was born, he was born completely healthy without any withdrawals. And I know that was God. And I know that that's unusual. And if there would have been any intervention while I was pregnant at all with anybody trying to help me, I think a lot of things would have been different. But I, in my own power, didn't understand what addiction was, and I didn't understand why I couldn't quit. And the hatred I had for myself was so immense. I wanted me to die more than anybody else ever. Like, I thought I was less than worthless. The shame was... It just, again, there aren't words that I was less than nothing, that I didn't deserve to be alive. So that's how I felt about myself. I ended up having my son. I tried to get clean. It was a horrific experience in having him with the C-section, and there's a lot there that I'm not going through. Tried to get clean, found out I can't just miraculously stop using these. I'm too sick to be able to change his diapers, too sick to be able to give him formula. This is like some of the worst times of my life, like when I had him, and I couldn't care for him the way that he needed to be cared for. I had to go out and get more opiates to even be able to pick him up and hold him in my arms, because without having them, I was too sick. I had to lay in the bathtub for hours upon hours, running hot water over my legs because I'd be convulsing in withdrawals. And I put him in his little like bassinet next to the bathtub, trying to rock it while I'm in the bathtub running hot water over my legs. I feel like my knees are breaking because I'm in withdrawals so bad. And when I'm not in withdrawals, I'm out on the streets trying to get stuff, putting him in his car seat every day to drive from Buffalo, New York back to Jamestown to go to my drug dealers in Jamestown, get back home from work, all while, by the way, I guess I forgot to mention this, the boyfriend I left to be with this other guy, we ended up getting back together while I was pregnant, and he took me back in as if I had never betrayed him, and was there when my son was born. He cut the cord, and to this day, that boyfriend who later became my husband, who's now my ex-husband, my son calls him dad. That's the only dad he's ever known, ever. And so that says a lot about my ex's character, that he could do that. But yeah, so I'm just, yeah, while the boyfriend's at work, I'd be going back and forth to Jamestown every day trying to get stuff and get back home before he got out of work to know that I had ever left. And I'm just in this vicious cycle. I had tried heroin for the first time on Mother's Day, and I remember when I was about to do that, there was this thought, like, you could die. This could be it forever. And then another thought occurred to me that I would rather die than feel this way anymore. Man, I can't express how much I hated myself. Just completely hated myself. So doing the heroin, doing just everything, I ended up crashing my car on purpose in the hopes to get a script. Got my wisdom teeth all pulled, and I did some crazy stuff to make it look like I had dry socket to get the sockets to bleed. And luckily I didn't die of an infection. And to get more pills, and I'm doing all this stuff, and finally I hit this breaking point in fall of 2014, and I said to God, if you are real, like, if you're real, I need you to take everybody out of my life that gives me drugs, because I can't stop. I can't stop. And to some degree, that prayer was so impossible that it was just like it had to be the biggest joke ever, because that would never happen. God would never take all my dealers out of my life. Both of my grandparents are giving me pills. Like, there's a lot that happened in between here that I just don't have enough time to explain. But I knew that wasn't going to be possible. But it was like a prayer in the wind. And then about a week or two after I prayed that, my grandma, who had been on painkillers for 30 years, prescribed, says to me, Chanda, I want to get off of these. I want to know what my true pain level is. And it's not clicking to me that I had prayed that. It's almost like I just, poof, it was gone. And I didn't think she was serious. I heavily advocated for her not to do that, because I'm like, Grandma, you're going to be in so much more pain. Don't do this. Don't do this. And I'm stealing her pills at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, this is like one part of my supply. What am I going to do? But she was dead serious, and she started tapering, and she for sure got off of them. My other grandpa, I'd been stealing from him for forever now, and I had this whole system when he would leave, and I would always find his hiding spots. But the very last time I stole from him, and this had to have been, I don't know how many weeks after the prayer this thing happened, but I go to my grandpa's house to steal his pills from him while he's gone somewhere to the store. I get in his house, I'm looking everywhere, and just I have this thought, like maybe they're in his slippers in his room, and sure enough, there they are. And I pull out the bottle, and it's like 200 Vicodin, and I think I only take 12. That was the thing, like I didn't take enough where he would notice out of the 200. And as I'm pouring them in my hand, I hear the voice of my other dead grandma scream out, like, this is where I can't tell if it was in my head or in the house, because that's how loud it was. And she said, John, like she's screaming, John, she's stealing from you. I thought that this like reverberated into the earth itself, and that he telepathically knew that I had stolen from him because he heard the voice of my dead grandma just like I did. Like I was so convinced that I must have been shaking when I put the pill bottle top back on and put him in a slipper, that I always was meticulous, that down to the very last tiny movement, he wouldn't know that I moved the bottle. But this time, I'm tweaking because I just heard the voice of my dead grandma. So I run out of the house, and I get a call an hour later. I'm at my other grandma's house. I get a call an hour later. Chanda, I know you stole from me. You took my effing pills. I've called the cops because they're going to cut me off of my supply at the doctor if I'm missing any, if I have a pill count. And I'm like, Grandpa, I didn't steal them. I promise. I'll talk to the cops. And he's like, well, you get down here because the cops are coming or about to be here. So I do that, and luckily I didn't get arrested. That's a whole separate story in and of itself, but Grandpa cuts me off. And then now I'm frantic because Grandma is off painkillers. Grandpa just tried, I was about to get arrested for stealing from him, and I get a hold of my one dealer, and I end up going to his house in Jamestown, and he said, Chanda, I can't get you anything. I'm going to a 3-year rehab. My mom found this Facebook page called The Addict's Mom, and I'm going to get clean for real. Like, I'm really going to change my life around. And I was just begging him, please, just this one last time. Please, dude, please. I'm so sick. Please. Like, I need something. And he was just resolute. He wasn't going to get me anything. And then a few days go by, and I'm still so dope sick. It was so awful. Calling my other dealer, and it keeps going to voicemail. And again, mind you, I crashed my car, so I couldn't just go to people's houses. I finally get a ride to my one dealer's house, and his girlfriend, I knock on the door. His girlfriend answers the door, and she said, you haven't heard? And I said, heard what? And she said, he's in jail. He got busted, and he's going to be there for quite a while, and I can't give you anything. And just my whole complete world crumbled in that moment. I'm dope sick. I have no idea how to be a human being. I would think to myself, wow, God answered my prayers. God's really real. I knew God was real in that moment, but it wasn't this victorious, amazing thing. It wasn't anything good. It was, I am completely hopeless. I'm dope sick. I'm having all these feelings I can't reconcile with. I felt nothing but despair, nothing but did not want to be alive. So much self-hatred, can't even begin to express. And at this point, I think I have the bright idea that I'll tell my grandpa that I'm really addicted, the one I was stealing from, so that way he'll let me back in his life so I can steal more of his pills or something like that. And so I do. And I tell him, I'm addicted. And he's literally, this is the last time I ever used. It's my last experience. I go over to his house after telling him I'm an addict. And mind you, I'd been hiding this from my family the whole time. Like, I would make up these stories how I'm in chronic pain. I would never tell him I'm addicted, nor that I was getting him off the streets. But I go to his house, tell him I'm addicted. Here is his table, like where we always sat. He sat here, I would sit here, he would have his coffee. His pillows are to the drawer right here. And right in front of the table is a hallway that's maybe 9 feet. Here's a hallway, and then there's a room right off that hallway. He ends up, after I get there, whatever, walking from his chair and the table here down the hallway into this room to go call rehabs on my behalf. I am at this table knowing his pills are right in that drawer. If I can just get there. He's down the hallway in this room. Like, I can see his elbow as he's standing in this room looking through the phone book. And I open that drawer, and just as quiet as I could, like, my heart is boom, 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 because he can look over at any moment, just peek his head out of the hallway and see I'm stealing from him. But I'm so dope sick and so desperate. And then all he had was Dilaudid. And I did not like Dilaudid, but I put a bunch of them in my hand, and I'm like trying quietly, and I get them right back in the drawer. And as I do, my other grandma, calls him and said she's probably over there trying to get stuff from you. She didn't tell me where she was going. She lied about using my car. She needs to come back home right now, as I just have these pills. And so I get on the phone with her, and I'm like, Grandma, I'm coming home. I didn't tell you because I was telling Grandpa the truth about my day. It was a whole thing. So I took the pills. Oh, no, I didn't have the car. Somebody dropped me out, or maybe, I can't remember how I got there, but Grandma comes to pick me up. Yeah, because I didn't have a car, so I don't know what I told her or how I got there. Grandma comes to pick me up. At that time, I had taken all the Dilaudid, and I just have a baby buzz because my tolerance was so high that I just have a tiny little buzz. And we make the decision that instead of me going to rehab, because I was terrified to go to rehab, that I'll go to my mom's house 3.5 hours away, and I'll detox there, and everything's going to be fine. Now, in my mind, I'm only going to my mom's house to make it appear as if I'm getting clean, to get everybody off of my back so I can find a new way to get more drugs. That's where I was at, because there ain't no way I'm quitting, but I also can't have them riding me about every decision I make. So go to my mom's house, and my full intent was to just find a way, message other people that were using to find a new dealer. Well, I get to my mom's house, I'm cold turkey detoxing on a leather couch, and if you haven't been through detox from opiates, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know how not fun this is. And the third day, I don't know, something happened to me. I had a spiritual awakening. I know it's God now. God completely lifted the veil off of my eyes. My cousin was keeping my son while I went to my mom's house to detox, which was really to find a new dealer, but I really was detoxing. And my cousin sent me a picture of my son, who was a year old at this time. And when I looked at his face, all I saw was complete brokenness. In his eyes, he looked so lost. And I will share this picture. And it's like the veil was lifted off of me. Everything hit me at once. Everything that I had become, everything that I had done, how I neglected him. I mean, just every bit of reality hit. And I made a decision right there that I have to get clean. I have to. Something changed inside of me. Like, God just completely changed my heart, opened my eyes. I changed. Then I went into frantic mode, because mind you, I was living in New York, where all of the dealers are and all of that I was trying to get new ones. And I knew if I stayed in Jamestown that I was going to die, that I was going to use, that there was just going to be no way that I would stay clean. But at this point, I had all this awareness that I'd never had in my whole life, what I had done, that I rush up. I get my mom to take me to New York to pack up all my stuff. And I'm like, Mom, I need to live with you. Like, I'm not going to make it if I live up there. So then I moved down to where my mom lives. I ended up leaving my boyfriend again, not for somebody else, but just leaving him. I wanted to get clean. I needed a change of everything. I moved me and my son down to my mom's house. And for the first couple months, it's awful. Like, yeah, I had all this awareness and I know I can't use anymore and that things have to change, but every day I'm just so depressed. I'm still in psychosis during this whole time, by the way, still thinking the world's not real. But now I'm sober and I'm having to go through all of these feelings completely alone and without any substance to cushion my reality anymore. So not only all the guilt, the regret, but also the complete fear that I had that the whole world wasn't real. So all of this is happening at once, and I'm just miserable for the first couple months while I'm living at my mom's house. And so I said a second prayer. And I said, God, well, I know you're real, but if you want me to do anything with my life, and if you don't want me to use anymore, I need you. And I don't know why I asked him this, but I said, I need you to send me a Pentecostal church like the one that I grew up in, and then I'll know. Now, where I was living down at my mom's house, it was a tiny coal mining town. There is one Catholic church in the whole town. There's a beer store. There's a Sheetz. And there's a Dollar General. That's it. Well, I say that prayer because I'm just desperate. I can't go out in sunlight again. You know, I can't look at my hands and feet because I think I'm a humanoid. It's terrible. A week later after praying that, I go to the Dollar General to grab some stuff. And this guy comes up and starts on the car window. And at first I think he's real weird. Like, what does he want? So I just barely crack it. And he said, the Holy Spirit led me to tell you that a new Pentecostal church opened up a couple blocks down the street, and he wants you to go this weekend because you're meant to be in ministry. Dude. So, needless to say, I end up going to this church. It turns out to be a church in someone's house. There's like 15 people that go. The women like have all long hair that's pulled back. They wear long skirts and like button-up shirts, and the men wear suits and kind of like Mennonite a little bit, like a little Amishy. But they have the Holy Spirit. Like they have something different about them. They're all on fire. They're so loving. They're so joyous. Everything they talk about, like it's so emphatic. They have this light and this life. And they were really weird. They were speaking in tongues. Even though they were weird, like they had something I wanted. So I asked the pastor, like, how do I get the Holy Spirit? And so he said I needed to be baptized and they needed to pray over me. And so they baptized me, they prayed over me. And on the third day, I woke up speaking this unknown language. And I ended up having this vision, which I don't know that I share this a lot, but I had like this vision or awareness that I was going to end up reaching hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people with my story. And I knew that that was God telling me that. But after that, I was thinking, well, how is this even possible? Because I'm living at my mom's house. I'm working part-time at a pizza place. I can't go outside in the sunlight. I have like a speech impediment. I would stutter a lot. Just how am I going to reach all these people? So some time goes on. I'm like super into the Bible and into Christ again. And I put out this first video. This was some time later, and the videos just start picking up on Facebook. And lo and behold, I'm reaching tens of thousands of people. And I begin sharing about my recovery during a time that like you don't tell people you had been addicted because you'd be called all sorts of things. And I was. People did not like me, but like 10% of people did. And they became like really loyal to me. And this following began being built up on Facebook. That's where I'm widely known. is Facebook. And so for years, I'm advocating for recovery. I'm working in addiction treatment. I'm helping people. I'm trying to fast forward here, but I'm still so plagued with depression, with anxiety. I'm still entirely controlling of my boyfriend. I just have so many demons, like just so many demons. And the only time I could find like peace is while I'm just going full force towards this recovery advocacy and going out and making the world aware of addiction and recovery and all of that. And I'm chugging along and it's all on my own power because I'm forgetting God completely. Like once I go to the recovery stuff, it's like my will be done. But I think it's God's will because God's will must be for me to help people with addiction, but it's all self, my thoughts, my this, my that. But I don't know. I'm deceived at this point in time. Like I didn't, if you would have asked me, this is all for God. But yeah, I was still very demonized. And then my aunt ends up moving back after years. Now this is 2019, I think it is. So, I get clean in 2014, start doing the videos, maybe a year or a little less than a year after that. I'm doing all the advocacy, working in treatment. My aunt moves back from Texas. She moved to Texas right after I moved out of her house when I was 16. She moves back, and at this point now I have two kids with, I think it was
I had actually
my third
misspoken.
son
I
on
had
the way.
already had
I
my
was
third
pregnant
child,
with him.
my
I'm
third
working
son.
in
By
addiction
this point, he
treatment.
was a few
My
months old.
boyfriend's going to work every day. I'm working like online, doing the videos, doing phone calls to get people into rehab, just going full force with that. But I'm so lonely and I'm so plagued with depression that when she moves back, she's moving right into the area by where I lived that I thought, now I'm finally not going to be alone anymore. And so she moves back, and for some reason that now I know it was the demonic working through me, there was a bad snowstorm a couple days after she moved back, and she had known what I was doing for recovery and all of that. But I had ended up really wanting to drink. And mind you, I'd been addicted to opiates and also alcohol, but I just told myself, well, I'm really just an opiate addict. I'm not really addicted to alcohol, so it's fine. And there's a bad snowstorm, and my car can't make it to the beer store. So I call her and her new boyfriend to come and pick me up in their dually truck to take me to go get beer. Why I asked her, because I knew that she had struggled with addiction, is beyond me. This is demons. And so she comes and picks me up to take me to the store to go get alcohol. And I'm sitting in the back seat, and she looks behind, like, it's nighttime. The headlights are shining through the front of the truck. She looks behind towards me and says, well, maybe I just think I'm going to get like a bottle of liquor or wine because my boyfriend has a hot tub and I just want to like relax and drink while I'm in the hot tub. And something in my spirit, like it just went, poof, like I don't know how to describe it, that my spirit knew something I didn't know. And all I could feel was immediate regret for having called her to take me to get the alcohol. I'm supposed to be the example. I'm this recovery advocate. I'm this person. And so she takes me to the store. I get my alcohol. And a couple days later, I get a call from her daughter, my little cousin, and she's like 15 at the time. And she's screaming, she's dead, she's dead, she's dead. And I'm like, slow down, who's dead? And she's like, my mom. It's my aunt. And I'm like, she's not dead. Like, she's not dead. She's like, she's dead in the hot tub. She's under the water. And I'm like, pull her out. Like, try CPR. Have you called 911? And she's like, yes, but she's dead. She's been dead for a long time. And I'm like, she's not dead. Like, I couldn't get through to her. She's not dead. Because to me, it's not real that she could possibly be dead. Like, just 0%. Like, do the CPR. And then my kids are just toddlers at this time. Well, my one is, and I'm pregnant, and Or no, am I pregnant? I think I am. I can't remember. No, my son is an infant. I'm sorry, because this is all convoluted. My son is an infant at the time, so he's on the bed, and then my two kids are like ruckusing, like playing too loud, and I end up getting off the phone with her and calling my boyfriend who's at work to say, you need to come back with the car. I need to go and check my aunt. I need to go. Like, they're saying she's dead. And my kids are playing so loud that I scream at the top of my lungs. I have never like gutturally screamed like this in my whole life, like at them. And just, I don't know, like something poured out of me that I didn't even know existed. And I'm screaming at them, like, because just all of this is so overwhelming. I end up calling my mom. My mom's rushing up from 3.5 hours away to get to New York, but I'm still not thinking she's dead. Well, my boyfriend finally gets home with a car, and I get in the car immediately as he stays with the kids. And my aunt had only moved in. She had only been home like 8 days from Texas. She moved like a couple miles down the road, and I'm driving probably 80, 90 miles per hour. But as I'm pulling up to the long stretch where the house that she's at is, my car, I start going in slow motion, but I'm going like 80 or 90 in real life, but it's just slow motion. And the faster I go, I can't go any faster than slow motion. And I'm pulling up and I see all the sheriff's lights, the ambulance lights, all the lights. And it's just slow. And now I think I'm in a dream or something. Like, this can't even be, none of it can be real. And slow motion, I finally get up to the driveway, and then it cuts to real life, like real time again. And I'm going up and I'm looking, and her daughter is in the police SUV and she's crying, and I'm telling her, like, she's not dead. And then I go in the house and they won't let me in the garage where the hot tub was to see her. And my grandma's inside, which is her mom, my aunt's mom, my mom's mom. And she's crying. I think the boyfriend was there. He's crying. My grandma goes outside. She punches the truck. I don't know. It was all, and they're saying no, she really is dead. Like, the paramedics. Then they bring the coroner in, and somebody comes in the house and says, well, somebody has to identify her body. But at this point, I think like I don't know. Like, she can't be dead. And so I say, I'll do it. And then my grandma says she'll do it too. And when they bring her out, they unzip the body bag, and she looked like an angel. It was the weirdest thing. She had been in the hot tub deceased for 10 hours. She should have been bloated. She should have been like hot water. It does a lot to a body, but I think God didn't allow her to start decomposing because he knew that me and my grandma, her mom, were going to see her. And when they pulled down the body bag to right here on her chest, and I could see a little below her chest that, I don't know, it looked like she had been decomposing from like the neck down, but I could barely see that. And this is how I know this was God. Neck up, she's like, her face is glowing. It's really weird. And her makeup is perfectly preserved. Her eyeliner, her mascara, her nose ring is perfectly in place. And she just looks like she's sleeping, like a sleeping angel. It was the weirdest thing. And so we identify her, they zip her back up. And from that point, everybody is coming over to my house because we're trying to get funeral arrangements. Well, I somehow can't grasp the reality that this is real and that I'm the one that had her bring me to go get alcohol, and that she also got alcohol and died from alcohol in that hot tub, which the autopsy later confirmed she had a blood alcohol level of 0.44, and she died from drinking in that hot tub. But I didn't tell anybody that I had her go get me alcohol. I didn't tell anybody that for a very long time. That was something only me and my kids' dad knew at that time. And so they're doing funeral arrangements at my house. Well, I'm so disassociated from the fact that she's dead that I'm like, well, I'm the one that needs to do her makeup and her casket. I'm the one that needs to do this stuff, because I thought the closer I get to her, if she's really dead, like her dead body, then it'll sink into me. Little did I know, I'm adding all this trauma onto me, and I'm only in a state of shock, like that the feelings would end up coming. I didn't know that. I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel any emotion whatsoever. None. So I end up doing her makeup while she's in the casket, hoping that it would make it all more real to me, and it's not, and I can't feel anything, and then I think I'm a sociopath because I can't feel anything. And during that time is when drinking just took a hold of me. It's almost like the spirit of alcoholism that was in the whole family just channeled itself directly into me. And off to the races with drinking, but alcohol only got worse from there. I thought at that time that was the worst it was going to get because I was drinking like maybe 6 beers a night. Like, a little did I know I was going to end up getting to over 20 a night every night. But at that time, all of that happens. I have a lot of trauma from having identified or doing all of that. I end up leaving my kids' dad. I get in another relationship. I'm still doing all the public stuff, but I'm hiding that I'm drinking. Now I'm in this new relationship that is terrible. That's a video for a separate time. The mental abuse was unlike into anything else. And during that time, in that new relationship, it's like a new set of legions of demons came into me. Whatever was attached to that person I was with just directly made me its home. And I started going into like this trance-like state where, and even a bit before this, where I would call this the darkness. It was like a totally different personality. I wouldn't remember like days of my life or hours or that I had gone somewhere. I wouldn't remember anything at all. And even to this day, like there are certain things that people have told me I was here or there, and I don't remember it at all. But this darkness would take over me, and I'd look completely different. My voice would sound different. There was no hope in this state of mind, like this personality, which now I know is a demon. There was no future. I couldn't see any goodness or any light. I only wanted to die. And I don't know how to describe like what it was like when that thing took me over. Like even I don't know how to describe it. Like whatever. It was very bad. So then I start going to a therapist and they tell me I have multiple personality disorder. They diagnose me with that. Because one moment I'm like this and I'm out there doing videos and helping people and all of that. And another moment I can barely lift up my head. I'm suicidally, hopelessly depressed. And, I'm plagued with intrusive thoughts, and I have all these voices telling me that I don't deserve to eat, that I don't deserve to live. And I remember one time I spilled a little bit of my milk on the counter from my bowl of cereal, and I just heard this voice say, "You should kill yourself. Look at that. You can't even get milk right in the bowl. Kill yourself. Kill yourself." And I'm just, the self-hatred was all consuming, all consuming. And I'm trying everything in my power, all the therapy. I'm trying sensory deprivation tanks, which my boyfriend is also paying for at the time. Come to find out, he had been cheating on me, and I knew it deep down. So I was going insane with the thoughts that he might be cheating on me as well. I was being plagued with those because my spirit knew what I didn't intellectually know. He was lying at the time, saying that he wasn't. So he's paying for me to have all this therapy to try to convince me that I'm crazy for thinking he was cheating, and pay for the therapy for the depression and the suicidal thoughts, doing sensory deprivation tanks, doing cold plunges, saunas, listening to all these podcasts about mental health and food, trying to change my diet, doing hypnotherapy to try to make me not depressed anymore, try to make me not have these thoughts that he's cheating on me. Like, I mean, you just... This is the absolute worst time ever. Every day, just woke up plagued, and I could not, for the life of me, get myself out of this. And I didn't know that I was possessed. I really didn't know. Now I know, it's clear as day, because I suffer with none of these things anymore. Like, I haven't suffered with depression, and I'll come to that, but just not at all. And so I'm looking to the world to like heal these things. And within me, I'm doing positive affirmations, all of that. I still claim to be Christian at this time, but I'm not following Christ at all. I don't read the Bible. You know, I only pray if I need God to do this or that. And then somewhere within here, I end up getting into the occult. I fall away from God. I get super into near-death experiences, listening to those. Then, I start doing these spells. I end up believing that I'm a fractal of God, that all of us, like individually, make up collectively God, and that I am just God here to experience Himself. And that I've reincarnated and been here multiple times, and I'm literally charging like staffs, like sticks in the water to ground myself and gain power. And I'm doing all of these witchcraft spells, and I'm buying all of these stones, and like this one has certain power and that one does. And I'm super into astrology and trying to predict the future, and I'm trying to channel spirits. And I end up going to this psychic convention because I finally got sober for a short period of time. And while I'm sober, I go to this psychic convention. And when I'm there, I meet this lady who gives me a psychic reading, tells me my astrology chart. Then she said, "You were a false preacher in your past life, that you were a Christian man, you were a Christian pastor, and you led many people away from the truth and tried to get them to believe in Jesus." Now, I should have known right there that's a demon, you know what I mean? But at this point, I didn't believe in evil anymore. I didn't believe in hell. I only believed in heaven. I believed that evil was just low, bad vibrations. And then she ends up giving me like this little shard of a stone. And she said, "This is a really special stone. It came from a catacomb in Egypt. And they did, like these famous people did this ritual and like cut off a piece of the stone from like this cavern or catacomb in Egypt. And then they all split up this one stone into different pieces, and it gave them power. And many of them became rich and successful authors and musicians." And she didn't even know that I was a writer or a public figure or nothing. And as soon as she hands me the stone, because she said, "I feel like I'm supposed to give it to you," she hands me the stone. When I hold it, she said, "And this comes with a contract." Ugh. Oh, well, as soon as I heard that, even though I didn't believe in evil, something felt like, "Ooh, no, 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 give it back, give it back." Well, I'm holding it, and I'm like, "No, I think, it's not." And she's like, "No, no, no. Just see if it speaks to you. Walk around," because we were in a gymnasium at the psychic convention. "Walk around the gymnasium and see if the stone tells you if you're supposed to keep it, if it's meant for you or not." Well, I get up, I start power walking around this gym, because as I'm holding this stone in my right hand, this ice death cold, like physical cold, but also spiritual cold, starts traveling up my arm, into my shoulder, and into the middle of my back, and straight out of my chest, like right through here. And this cold feels so evil, but I still don't believe in evil, but this feels evil. And it's just like cold to the touch, that when my grandma an hour later touched my right arm, it was cold as if it were a dead person. That's how cold it was. Well, anyways, this had all trailed right up into my heart as I made this lap. And I give her back the stone, and I tell her I think I already received what I was meant to receive from it. Well, anyways, I was sober at that time. Then right after that convention, I go back home. There's a bat in my house. I've never had a bat in my house ever. Like maybe other people do, but I never had. But this bat looks like it looks like it's spiritual too. Like I don't know how to describe it, just the way it was moving. And finally get it out of the house. And then it flies right back and tries to like fly into my head. And my little son is running, and he falls on the neighbor's porch and splits open his chin. And that was all crazy. And then like a day or two later, I start hearing what I think is the voice of God, but I'm also God, telling me, "You need to go to your mom's house. Just something really good is going to happen down at your mom's house. You need to go to your mom's house." So I do, thinking that this is the voice of myself, who is God, and this is also collectively God telling me something amazing is going to happen at my mom's house. Well, I had been sober like a month or so. I go to my mom's house. As soon as I go there, it's like just this overwhelming, I wouldn't even call it a desire. I had to drink. And then I did. And the relapse that took me for a long time. I got up, I think at that point, to drinking like 16 beers a night, every night. And then I got into multiple accidents. So I got into one car accident where I hit a tree that fell into the highway in front of my car. I hit that tree at 74 miles per hour. I hit the trunk of it, blew out my tires. directly a month after that, like month to the day after that, I was in my baby car, I called it. It was a tiny Nissan Versa, and a deer runs out in front of me as I'm going 60 and totals my car. Like, we're talking totals. The whole front end of the car is smushed up. My hood goes over my windshield, and I'm gliding towards the left, and a semi's coming, but I can't see it because my hood is over my windshield, and something literally guides me off the road. Now I know it was God. And I don't even know how to explain. Like, I swear I had a little bit of PTSD because I just had the crash a month before. Now I know this is all a result of witchcraft. And then it came to the last accident. It was that winter. I think it maybe 2022. I don't know what year these things are. I'm trying to get to a point here. I go down to my mom's house. I'm drinking. My brother is driving the side-by-side. It's an off-road vehicle, and we're driving for like an hour. And then after an hour of riding, we're both unbuckled. After an hour of riding, he reaches over and buckles up my seat, and my seatbelt, and I'm sitting in the middle, and he's sitting here driving. And less than 30 seconds after having buckled me, we flip. Well, we flip towards this way. So I would have went, because we didn't have a windshield, so it's just open. I would have went straight head first into the ground and broke my neck and died. Just the trajectory, because we flipped that way, I would have gone straight into the ground. And my little brother has no memory or recollection of having buckled me. Well, 2 hours after after that crash, we're hanging upside down. I unbuckle myself, I fall out, I realize my little brother is bleeding, so I start running, but it's like a dream. So I start like running up the path in slow motion to get someone to help us, and I see this other side-by-side up the trail, and I finally get to them, and I'm seriously running in slow motion. It was like a dream. I think I was just in a state of shock. I get up there, and the people that ended up, that were in that side-by-side that ended up helping us, that guy 2 hours later died from flipping his side-by-side because he was not buckled. After all of that, and realizing he died and I should have, and it was just, I think I just snapped even more, and I began drinking more than I ever had, and this cycle of alcoholism continued. Now I think I was up to 20 drinks a night, every night, shaking like this when I was waking up, and I've been through alcoholism for the past several years, probably since my aunt died, but it really got bad the last few years after the witchcraft, where I've been on and off from drinking alcohol and trying to get sober and still doing these videos and trying to help people, but then I'd fall back into drinking again, and I didn't know that, like, I was demonically possessed. I didn't know. I didn't know that I needed Jesus, that there was a curse on me from inviting in all the witchcraft, all the things I've done throughout my life. Like, I was just a plagued person. And I finally ended up coming back to Jesus. That's a story for a different time. But this last time around in getting sober, I finally hit a breaking point, because, now I'm newly married, and, life's supposed to be amazing, but I just can't quit drinking for the life of me, cannot quit drinking. And that'll be a separate story for where alcohol really took me. But I finally just say to God, because I do believe in Jesus at this time, and, I had a really powerful experience with him. I say to him, whatever it takes, if it takes you sending me to jail, if it takes you sending me to rehab, do whatever it takes for me to get sober, just please spare my life. That was it. And got to a place in my marriage where my husband is just breaking down over my drinking, and then my son starts crying and telling me he wishes that I would quit drinking, and I didn't even know that my drinking was impacting him. And I finally ended up getting sober, and it was God and God alone. I can't stress that enough, because I had tried so many times this past year, probably 15 or 20 times, my husband is behind me, to get sober on my own, and I'd make it to like day 1 or 2 and just couldn't. And that's not even accounting for all the years before this. Like, it's countless times to try to get sober, getting the medications, doing the detox, all of that. Just can't do it. Can't do it. And I think what really, really did it this last time was realizing that how much I'm impacting the people that I love, but B, laying down all of my pride, all of I'll get sober, but only if it's this or that way. It has to be the way I need it to go, God, or otherwise I'm not going to do it. This past time was a complete broken and contrite spirit of, all right, you win, whatever way you want it to go. I give it all to you. And I am telling you, after that, when that happened, God has taken all of the desire for me to drink completely away from me. He has miraculously healed my body, because I'll go into this at a different time. Like, my stomach was swollen, my eyes yellow, I'm shaking like this when I'm waking up. I had so many stomach issues that everything went right through me. I thought I was dying. It felt like I was dying. That's how much I was drinking. And I got to the point where when I would drink my first beer, my stomach would have so much pain that I'm holding down my vomit. I'm holding down the beer to keep it in my stomach, because my body's having such a reaction to the alcohol that it's like trying to purge it from me. I started like having pins and needles all through my hands, and I don't know if I was like developing like drinking diabetes or whatever they call it. And my muscles were so weak, it felt like the alcohol was eating my muscles, because I could barely lift anything and I'd get injured just by like the slightest thing. Just like you could pull my arm and my muscle, then it felt like my muscle was torn. And man, it was so bad. But he completely delivered me, and he healed my physical body like rapidly and miraculously. And he's also delivered me from all of the demons attached to me. When I tell you, like, I thought I was just naturally depressed or naturally low or naturally dark because I had been that way my whole life. Now I know that that is nothing but a lie, that God didn't create me a little naturally depressed. He didn't create me anxious. He didn't create me paranoid or in psychosis, because now I experience no depression whatsoever. I don't have anxiety. I don't have any of these old familiar feelings. I have nothing. Like, he's purged, it feels like, legions of demons out of me. Just legions, because now I'm operating in so much joy and in so much clarity and so much peace. And I have, like, I don't think I can express to you the miracle that it is that I have no desire to drink. None. And we're talking a person drinking over 20 drinks a day, every day for years. Like, yeah, I'd have a couple months of sobriety here or there, but the miracle that it is, that even when the phantom thought occurs, like, oh, you used to drink when you did this or that, it's just like, it means nothing. Like, that's how free I am. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. And he's indwelled me powerfully with his Holy Spirit. We have miraculous things, my husband and I, that are happening in reality, that God's been showing us, like downloading our spirits with the truth of who he is. And the first few weeks after I got sober, and after I felt really truly saved for the first time in my life, I was hearing all of these blasphemous voices. That was the only thing I wasn't delivered from immediately. And every time I'm here, well, actually the blasphemous voices were going on for like over a year. But anytime I would hear God's name or the Holy Spirit, like you can imagine, just nothing but blasphemy. And I'm begging God to like take these blasphemous voices, because, you know, it's really hard to follow God when that's all you can hear every time you hear his name. And he led me into fasting, and I only fasted 1 day, and that's been completely removed from me. The blasphemous voices, like all of these things that I thought were me or OCD, come to find out that they were nothing but demon possession, oppression. So yeah, that's a synopsis of my story. I kind of quickened up the second half with the alcohol and what's happened for the past several years of my life, but maybe I'll go into that more in a different video as this has been very long. But all of that is to say that God has led me and my husband to start this One Spark Ministries, and we'll make a separate video of how he actually told us to make this ministry and the crazy things like he has done as signs and confirmations to like really have us do it like right now, and also what has come against us in trying to even do this video right here. It's wild how much has opposed us to even have this testimony come out. But God made it very, very clear to me that I need to start this ministry with my testimony before I do anything else. So that's what I'm doing, and my husband will be next with his testimony. And I'm not sure why God's having us do it this way, but he is. So stay tuned for my husband's testimony. This has been the first episode of the OSM podcast. Now you know a whole lot more about me than you ever did. My name is Chanda Lynn. I love you guys.